We really have got to take the ass out of assume. Now, I'm not kidding when I say biases equal assume. When you look at me, you probably would not be the least bit surprised. You're looking and saying, yeah, kind of a cute little old white-haired lady. Chubby white-haired lady. And kids, that wouldn't surprise you. Probably dote on my grandchildren. You'd be right about those things. However, that isn't all of who I am or have been. I was a 60s hippie. I mean, the long hair, the flowers, the whole thing, pictures I never want to see again. And then after that, 10 years later, I worked for a government agency. I had a black belt. No, I cannot get my foot up there now. I learned how to kill. And I carried a gun. And I went to foreign countries. And I am now very much against violence. That probably wouldn't surprise you either. But this is what we do. We keep making these assumptions. When was the last time you struck up a conversation with a total stranger of a different generation, a different gender, a different ethnicity? We don't do that. Have you ever seen somebody when the elevator doors open and they look in, they decide to take the steps? Okay, why do you think that is? Yeah, jump right to an assumption. And this is what we do over and over and over again. So what I want you to do is I want you to turn to the person on your right, who will now be looking at the person on their right, and to yourself, I want you to acknowledge what was the first thing that came into your head when you looked at that person. Now, if that person is your wife, you're probably thinking, isn't she beautiful? If that person is your husband, you're probably thinking, why did he wear that shirt? If it's a total stranger, that's when you got to acknowledge what is that bias that we bring out when we see somebody and we make this big assumption about them. Now look to the person on your left. Again, they're looking away from you. Now, with that in mind, did you have a blank when you looked at them? Give your mind that blank. Go for the raisin again. And try striking up that conversation. Now, I did that earlier when I sat down. Now, if I had been assuming, I would have assumed that the person sitting next to me was an artist. She has on sparkly clogs. She's a math teacher in middle school. Big surprise. The person on the other side of me, I would have said model. She's a realtor. Now, for some people, that's right up there with lawyer. And I don't, see? You made an assumption, didn't you? I'm married to a lawyer. I would not be doing that, so see? We jump to these conclusions. We absolutely have to stop it. Now, in the audience this evening is the president of my board of directors. Her family originally is from a country in Africa. We were talking once about a legal thing having to do with passports, and she said she couldn't understand why she hadn't had that experience. She thought maybe it was because she was from another country. We're all sitting there going, Africa, and she said, I'm Canadian. That is not where we were going with it. But once again, we were surprised because we had made an assumption. So the next time that you meet a stranger, strike up that conversation with them. If you don't want to have a conversation, really and truly, at least look them in the eye and acknowledge that they exist on this planet. Because, see, I run a conflict resolution center. We do mediations for free. You know why? Because there's too much conflict out there. So maybe if we stop making all these assumptions, we would put ourselves out of business. And you know what? That would be just fine with us. No conflict, everybody hugging around the world. Thank you.